Welcome to the Leading at Chestnut Hill Realty webinar. Today's webinar will build off of what you discussed as a cohort in the Leading at Chestnut Hill Realty program on September 20th. My name is Josh Combest and I will be presenting for you today. As mentioned, this webinar will be an extension of the conversation that you began on September 20th. We have several questions and topics that we will discuss today. What is an individual contributor? What is a leader? What challenges do new leaders face? What do you need to do to be an effective leader? Then, when you get to the homework and reflection area, I will present you with some reflection questions and something to do that should be completed prior to the next session on December the 6th. What is an individual contributor? Take a moment to think about how you would identify an individual contributor. Your list most likely contains some of these elements. As an individual contributor, you can focus most of your attention on your own success, development, and results. Successful individual contributors are content experts and technically proficient. They are able to buckle down and execute, getting the work done. Individual contributors are focused on tasks that need to be completed to make day-to-day progress. Generally, a successful individual contributor follows directions well, especially if he or she understands how the expectations of them impact their day-to-day. While everyone needs feedback at some level, individual contributors are fairly self-reliant, worried mostly about their own sphere of work and work product. So what is a leader? Shifting to becoming a leader means you need to change your focus and where you spend your time. Leading others inherently requires letting go of control and enabling others to do the work. Trusting others, getting out of their way, involving them in decisions, supporting them from the sidelines, and being transparent and sharing information and content are all critical elements of being a good leader. This transition is not an easy one to make, as it requires changing many of the old, familiar behaviors that served you well in the past. There are many myths about what being a leader means. Even if you're not a new leader, there are common myths that can impact your ability to be successful. Myth number 1, I need to be more, fill in the blank. Forcing yourself to be someone you're not isn't just a waste of effort, it's counterproductive. If you're not comfortable being authentic, the people around you will likewise be reluctant to open up to you about their ideas and struggles. Putting up a front also makes it hard to show your reports that you genuinely care about them, and letting people know you care is essential. You can be quiet and introverted, outgoing and gregarious, or anything in between, and still be a great leader. It's more important to understand your natural self and bring your real self to it than it is to act, speak, or feel a certain way. Your predictive index results can help you to understand your natural self. Myth number 2, if my direct reports dislike me, I did something wrong. It's hard to give people constructive feedback. Being comfortable telling an employee that a project they've worked on didn't meet expectations, for example, can prompt many leaders to soften the message too much. They don't want the team member to be angry or dislike them, and their instinct is telling them to reach out to her, downplay the issue, and reassuring him or her that everything would be fine. However, in the long run, both you and the employee suffer by not letting a temporary feeling of frustration or uncomfortableness impact the quality of the employee's work. Your top priority as a leader is not to be liked, but rather to provide the support, guidance, and feedback that will help your people grow. The third myth is the more senior I am, the more credit I should get. Your direct report's achievements are your achievements. Your job is to step out of the spotlight and let them shine. Encourage them to share their wins with the company, whether in an email or in a cross-functional presentation. Let your own boss know when they do something great. Their careers and morale will soar, and they'll lift you and your team up along with them. The next myth is, I'm already good at getting and receiving feedback. Many leaders think they are better at giving and receiving feedback than they really are. Often leaders are not framing feedback as feedback. They're bearing it under vague inquiries and tactical project check-ins. Or they're treating constructive criticism as a one-way endeavor, giving it and not inviting it, or vice versa. Feedback needs to be direct, specific, and actionable, and of course it needs to come from a good place. Feedback should also be timely. The longer you wait to provide the feedback, the less impactful that feedback is. Your job is to help your employees see how they're impacting the team and to empower them to address issues productively. And if you want their input, as most leaders genuinely do, it's not enough just to ask for it. You need to open the conversation and model it for them. The next myth is leaders tell people what to do. As mentioned before, being a leader means changing personal habits and letting go of some control. Micromanaging the activities of your people will limit their creativity and level of investment in their work. Your job is not to tell your reports what to do, but to support them in reaching goals that you set together. Instead of instructing them on tactics, spend time talking about what they should accomplish by the end of the week, the month, or quarter, and about what kind of support they need from you to get there. Then step back and let them own the process. Myth number 6, it's easier if I do it myself. Perhaps the biggest mistake leaders make is thinking that just because they can do something better and faster than anyone on their team, that they should do it themselves, especially if it's an important task. Actually, the opposite is true. Your boss didn't get to be a boss without learning to delegate, and surely will notice if you don't delegate. Also, when you delegate, you are training your team and enabling them to become more proficient. This ultimately increases the productivity of your team and makes team members happier. The last myth we're looking at today is I have to be the smartest person on the team. Not true. Of course you have to be smart to be a good leader, but a good leader takes advantage of the skills and talents of everyone on the team. If someone on your team is a better artist than you, let them work on the presentation materials. If an employee is a better listener, assign them to the cross-functional team that requires good listening skills. Don't try to compete with your staff. Use their talents to the fullest, and everyone benefits. Many leaders face the same challenges. New leaders, leaders that have been leaders for a long time, the challenges that they see are very similar. A 2017 survey done by Robert Half shows that the biggest challenge experienced by new leaders is the inevitable balance, how they reprioritize their time to both perform individual responsibilities and spend the necessary time overseeing other people. Second, leaders face challenges when moving into a position where they are supervising friends or former peers. As leaders find, understanding how to motivate team members is a consistent challenge. Also, leaders need to prioritize their time differently to adjust shifting demands. This remains a challenge for many leaders. Equally, many leaders struggle with the increase in performance expectations. We talked about the importance of shifting how leaders prioritize their time. This research shows that many leaders struggle with how to prioritize effectively to meet those higher performance expectations. So what can you do to address these myths and common challenges? What was previously a strength may actually be something that holds you back as a leader. For example, your ability to put your head down and get the work done on a tight deadline really helped as an individual contributor. As a manager, however, this same tendency may lead you to take over a project or initiative versus motivating your team members to get it done. You need to be honest about where your style both helps and potentially hurts you as a leader. Don't rely on your own perceptions. Engage your team by proactively reaching out and asking them for feedback on how you can better help them. The leader of a team is unable to achieve all the objectives by themselves. Great leaders know how to tap into the power and strengths of the people on their teams. They are then able to delegate effectively to those they know will get the job done. Delegating can take two forms. You can delegate tasks, things that you can't get to or don't want to do, or you can delegate authority, ownership over a particular project or initiative. Delegating authority has the biggest impact on the employee's experience and also provides you with critical time to tackle other leadership priorities. However, don't delegate and then disappear. Effective delegation requires a clear process where you and the employee can check in, and feedback can be provided on both ends. Today's workplace is made up of people with diverse backgrounds, experience, and proficiencies. In order to become effective leaders, you need to accept that everyone works in different ways. You must respect individual work styles and strive to get to know your employees. What do they value? What motivates them? What are their strengths and weaknesses? Answering these questions will enable you as a leader to support each employee individually. The predictive index is a tool that helps outline an individual's motivations and drives. You can also talk with your employee in an open conversation, possibly sharing more about what you value and what is important to you. A greater understanding of the individual makes it easier to see where the person fits into the organization's big picture. It also leads to more effective collaboration. Effective leaders need to understand how their role contributes to strategic company goals. When leaders are narrowly focused on their team and don't look beyond their department, silos occur, and they are making it difficult for collaboration and innovation to happen. Know what keeps your peers up at night. Know what business opportunities and challenges they are facing. Communication is not simply the transfer of information from one person to another. Effective communication clearly communicates intent and information. As a leader, you have a responsibility to keep your team informed. However, great leaders provide both information and context. For example, explaining why a new idea wasn't implemented, or talking through why a certain senior leadership decision was made. Context allows employees to feel connected to the bigger picture and understand how they support your vision as a leader. As a leader, your team's success is a measurement of your effectiveness. If you focused on the previous steps, you have a lot of information on what positively and negatively pushes your people's buttons. Use this knowledge to more effectively motivate and drive them. If you have any questions about a particular individual, don't guess. Open a collaborative conversation where you can learn about each other.